Shalom, everyone. Today we're going to be discussing the beliefs of KARAISM, of Karaites. What do we believe? And how do we differ from the rabbis, the Orthodox Jews? It's very simple. First, before I begin, I want to start off by saying we have to ask this question, very important. This is for the non-Jews who want to become part of Israel, who want to become a Jew and keep the covenant of YHWH. The question is it true, based in Tanakh, and Tanakh alone, which Karaites fully support, that their authority is Tanakh? If it is Tanakh, then what I'm saying to you, you will not be able to disprove, because I am stating simply from Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible, who is a Jew according to Tanakh, the authority of the Karaites. Most Karaites believe in the patrilineal descent, meaning that if your father is Jewish, then you are Jewish. This is based primarily in the fact that all descendants in the Bible goes according to the male line, or all descent, goes according to the male line. Some Karaites believe that both parents must be Jewish. However, according to Tanakh, the words of God, not men, anyone who, 1, is circumcised, 2, accepts the God of Israel, YHWH, alone as their God and no other, 3, keeps the mitzvot, keeps the Torah, and lives according to it, is a Jew or an Israelite. That's it. Read Tanakh from beginning to end. You have to read it every day. This is why Orthodox Jews can't comprehend this. They don't study Tanakh like they do the Talmud. Karaites study the Tanakh every single day, as I have done for years, and I will continue to do that. If you study Tanakh, this is what you'll find. Exodus chapter 12, verses 43 through 49. Ruth chapter 1, verse 16. This is just a handful. There are many, many, many examples. Esther chapter 8, verse 17. This is what it says in Esther chapter 8, verse 17. And many among the peoples, non-Jews, non-Israelites, of the land became Jews. If you read the Torah over and over, it says the servants, the non-Jews who want to keep the covenant of YHWH, they must be circumcised. That was the requirement. Get them circumcised. It doesn't say to be accepted by the state of Israel. It says nothing about being accepted by the Orthodox rabbis. It says simply, I'm not trying to be sarcastic or rude. I'm just telling you, this is what Tanakh teaches. If Karaites, there are many Karaites who don't agree with this. And I could care less. Because if you consider yourself a Karaite, according to Tanakh, if your foundation, your belief is based on Tanakh, then it must prove itself in Tanakh. And Tanakh speaks nothing about these requirements based on the state of Israel and the Orthodox rabbis. It speaks about keeping the mitzvot, getting circumcised, and following YHWH alone as your God. That's it. Period. Now, the Karaites, the vows of the Karaites are as stated right here. I believe in YHWH of hosts as the only God and renounce all other gods. Period. Even demigods. Everything. I believe in the Tanakh, the Hebrew scripture, as the word of YHWH and the only religious authority. Period. And renounce all other writings, creeds, and doctrines as the words of men. This is the Karaite vows. So if a Karaite's watching this, I'm not trying to say this in a way to cause any fights, but if you're going to call me wrong or say I'm wrong by saying these things, you're going against the Bible. You're going against Tanakh. This is the Karaite vow as well. So even the Karaite vow says this is the authority. And that's what I base all my videos on. And that's why nobody ever answers my videos with the scriptures that I present. They just want to attack. Another one is, I undertake to study and keep the Tanakh, striving to interpret it according to its plain meaning. This is the problem. You have to study every day. Study Tanakh. Not the Talmud, the Tanakh. Because the Hebrew Bible is the Karaites' only source and only authority. We do not believe in the Talmud. We respect it, but we do not follow the Talmud. We follow only the Tanakh and the Hebrew Bible alone as our authority, and we study it every day. And I have done many years, and I will continue to do every day study. I study for hours because it's the most important and most delicious reading of my life every day. And that's what you must do. You must also accept the principles expressed in the ancient Karaite vow. By the covenant of Mount Sinai and the statutes of Mount Horeb, I will keep the holy appointed times of YHWH according to the new moon and the finding of the Aviv in the Holy Land of Israel when possible. There are many questions that Orthodox Jews have, as well as non-Jews have, about how do you understand how to keep the Torah without the Talmud? It's very simple, because what's not written down was not required. The details that are left out are only problems to the rabbis, who invented extra rules, added and taking away from Torah. It says in Torah about the slaughtering of an animal simply to let the blood drain on the floor. And all Jews follow this, even though we have different understandings of this. It's very clear in Torah that the people of Israel knew how to slaughter long before the Torah was even given. Now, the Orthodox Jews usually don't understand this. I don't understand why they don't understand this. For example, we are all familiar with the events of Joseph's childhood, in which his brothers tried to convince their father that Joseph died. In order to enhance their deception, they slaughtered a goat and put the goat's blood on Joseph's coat. That's in Genesis chapter 37, verse 31. The Torah describes the act of slaughtering the goat as YHWH. They slaughtered, from the same root as shechita. These events occurred before the Torah was given in the desert, so it's obvious God did not need to express details in the Torah of how to slaughter, because the practices were already known before the revelation. That's our understanding. How do we know when the month starts of the sighting of the new moon when the Torah does not express a command on how we are to set up these months? This is a question near and dear to the heart of every observant Karaite. Both Rabbinites and Karaites agree that this was the historical practice. We don't disagree on that. And throughout history, it was the observant Karaites who maintained the ancient practice of the sighting of the new moon. In contrast, rabbinical Jews for centuries used the calendar that fixes the months by mathematical calculation. In many months, the rabbinic calendars differs from the actual new moon, sometimes by up to 3 days. That's how off they are based on this mathematical understanding. Here are some question and answers that we get a lot. Do Karaites wear tzitzit or fringes? Yes, we do. We wear the blue on the tzitzit, which the rabbis do not. But don't Karaites hang their tzitzits on the wall of the synagogue? No, this is a well-known rabbinic lie, like many other lies that they have claimed, that states that the Karaites hang their tzitzit or fringes on the wall instead of wearing them. This is simply not true. It's one of many, many outrageous lies of the rabbis of the past who lied about Sadducees, lied about the Karaites. Just so many lies. It's just ridiculous. Discussing tzitzit, the Bible states, and you will see them and remember all the mitzvot of YHWH. That's in Numbers chapter 15, verse 39. The rabbis assume that the Karaites take this verse literally, and since a person can see tzitzit, which are hanging on the wall, there is no need to wear them. This is so stupid. There are two problems with this rabbinical assumption and lie. The first is that the Karaites do not take the Tanakh literally, always, but rather require that every interpretation stand up to the same objective scrutiny regardless of its source. The second problem is that the rabbinical myth interprets in Numbers chapter 15 verse 39 out of context. While taking something out of context is typical with the rabbis' interpretation, it is unacceptable to the Karaite commentator. A closer look at the passage in Numbers chapter 15 verses 37 through 41 shows that the command of the tzitzit applies only to the clothing, as the passage specifically states, and they will make for themselves tzitzits on the corners of their garments. That's in Numbers chapter 15 verse 37. Another question, do Karaites have blue in their seat? I just answered that. Yes, we do, because the Torah commands so. The rabbis do not follow this. Did the Karaites rediscover the special dye for making the blue as the rabbis claim they do not have anymore on their seat? Torah commands that every four-cornered garment have strings attached to it, and among those strings must be a strand of blue. Techelet, in Numbers chapter 15, verse 38, while Karaites faithfully carry out this practice by placing the blue string on their seat, the Rabbinites ignored this commandment by only using white strings. The rabbinical reason for abandoning the commandment to place a blue string on the seat is that the dye needed for the blue has been lost. However, Karaites point out that the Torah does not state which dye must be used to create the blue strings. Another question, how do Karaites know how to make special knots of seat if the Bible doesn't tell us how? These are the same question and answer we get all the time, mostly by Orthodox. The Bible does describe seat as having chain, braid-like, plate-like designs. You can find this in Numbers chapter 15, verses 37 through 41. And Yehovah spoke unto Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and say to them, You shall make for yourselves seats on the corners of your garments, and for all your generations. And you shall place on the seat of the corner a string of blue. And they shall be for you seat, and when you see them, and remember the commandments of Yehovah your God, and do them, you shall not be led astray by your hearts and your eyes, which you whore after. That's a fact. Do Karaites wear tefillin or phylacteries? No. But I thought Karaites wear tefillin between their eyes. This is not true. Another rabbinical lie. This is common in Talmud. Popular legend has it that the Karaites and the Sadducees before them interpreted the words that they shall be for tafot between your eyes, literally, and as a result wore tefillin or phylacteries right above their noses. One version of the story claims that the Sadducees were wiped out because of this practice. The legend goes that they kept bumping into walls since their tefillin were between their eyes instead of their foreheads. Their noses were sent shattering into their brains, killing them instantly. Another rabbinical lie and outrageous claim that's not true at all. Nor the case that the Sadducees disappeared. They did not disappear. The name might have disappeared. The people did not disappear. All right. Some more questions and answers. Do Karaites eat milk and meat together? Yes, we do. While there is a biblical prohibition not to boil a young goat or sheep in its mother's milk, there is no such prohibition against eating milk and meat together. Do Karaites sacrifice the Pashal, the lamb, on Mount Gerizim every year? No, that is the Samaritans, not Karaites. The Samaritans believe in the holiness of Mount Gerizim, while Karaites believe the holiness of Jerusalem, according to Tanakh. The Samaritans believe only in the Torah, while the Karaites believe in the entire Hebrew Scriptures, Tanakh. The Samaritan Torah has minor differences from the Jewish Torah. Karaites accept the same Torah as all other Jews, and in fact, it was Karaite scribes who preserved the Torah used today by all Jews. That's another thing that you'll never hear from the Orthodox rabbis. The Samaritans bring the Passover sacrifice on Mount Gerizim every year, while Karaites do not currently bring sacrifice because we do not have the ashes of the red heifer to purify ourselves, and also we don't have a temple, which is required. There are many other questions and answers that I'll make in future videos, but this is just a rundown and a basic understanding. Karaites believe in the authority of Tanakh. We follow Tanakh. There are many questions that Orthodox Jews will ask. How do you understand this without this? How do you understand this without the Talmud? How do you know this? How do you know that? The point is, if it's not in Tanakh, it obviously was not important, nor a point of Moshe to explain to us, because it's not that, was never meant to be explained in such a way, to have thousands of rules added to it. There are many misconceptions that the rabbis make of Karaites, which is completely false. So do your research, study Tanakh, not Talmud, Tanakh, as Karaites do. Study every day. That's the most important thing. Study, study, study. Study every day.